Hello everyone, I'm DonTheCrown, and today I want to talk about Path of Exile's 0.2 update, Dawn of the Hunt. And before we get started, I really just do want to say that I'm very thankful for everybody who's watched my content with PoE2, and really with all of the other games we've been covering as well. And it would really be super good for me if I continue to cover PoE2. And like from a financial standpoint, I'm definitely very motivated to make more PoE2 content. Because if we go and we look at my last 365 days here on YouTube, April 5th through April 4th, almost my birthday, the 8th, and we can see here that we super pop off as soon as the PoE2 stuff starts rolling in, and as the content kind of rolls into other games like Torchlight Infinite, or playing like a PoE1's League, or even 33 Immortals, the views are definitely lower. And so if I really wanted to make the most amount of money, I would just continue to play PoE2 as much as possible. Problem is, I'm really not digging the 0.2 update, and I don't really think that it is the direction that I was hoping to see from GGG in terms of where they wanted to take their game. And a big part of that is that, like, yes, it is early access, and yes, there is like a lot of room for growth and change and stuff like that. However, we did not really know the direction that GGG was planning to take this particular game. All we could really tell is like, hey, this is the 0.1. I don't really like this. I don't really like that. The game kind of feels like it's a slog in the campaign, and I'd rather get through the campaign relatively quickly so I can enjoy the end game, the like real meat and potatoes of the game. I don't really want to spend hours and hours and hours going through the campaign. Let's see how they change it. And so now that we're here in 0.2, it's very obvious that they want to slow it down even more, and they want things to be even more sloggy. And that's just not something that's super duper interesting to me. And there's just like really a lot of different things that are kind of like I struggle, especially because I'm playing the new Huntress class. I think the Huntress in a lot of ways kind of exemplifies what they want to do with classes moving forward. Mark even said that like things in the Huntress made them go, "Ooh, this is way better. We should go back to other classes and add that stuff in there." I think really what he was talking about is kind of how the combo gameplay kind of works in for pretty much every Huntress skill. The Huntress's like primary weapons are going to be the spear and the buckler in the offhand, and this gives you the ability to parry, which is kind of like a block, but when an enemy hits you, you leave a little mark on them, which you can then either just do damage to and they take more damage, or you can consume it with several different skills, such as disengage here, where if you hit an enemy that you parried, you'll gain a frenzy charge. And then most of the skills for the Huntress, like the explosive spear, for example, lightning spear, I think like almost half of the skills here, like barrage, storm lance, glacial lance, I think even like most of these down here all have like they will eat your frenzy charge to do something special. So this kind of like encourages you to generate frenzy charges, whether that's through like aura that gives you frenzy charge like every 5 seconds or so, by parrying and disengaging, by spamming sniper's mark on enemies all day. You're really kind of motivated to have this kind of combo gameplay. The problem is that it kind of just feels like there's like we have this puzzle piece of the Huntress, but it doesn't fit with the puzzle piece of the enemies. Lots of times you'll just get absolutely swarmed by enemies without even like really doing anything, and being kind of like required to go and parry one enemy and then do either a disengage or a different attack to consume that parry is relatively difficult. For example, here we can see on the ground a whole bunch of gorillas that jumped me the very moment that I stepped out of town here. There was like maybe like 10 plus enemies. I believe there's 2 elites in this pack. And I don't really have a lot of room to work here or really do anything. And yeah, it's just kind of like to be expected in PoE2, which is not very Souls-like to me. If they want to like have like kind of like slow methodical combat, that's totally fine. All of the puzzle pieces need to fit together, and the enemies are a big puzzle piece that does not fit this mold right now. And so hopefully this is something that they work on if they want to have the slow methodical combat where you're not just like spamming one button. However, I think that there's some other problems with how PoE is kind of developing their combat system, like where I think that they like maybe should take some inspiration from some different games. Specifically, the game that I think a lot of people mention is Lost Ark. And so Lost Ark kind of had a very similar system. We're going to have, limited number of skills. We only have 8 skills on the bar here, maybe 9 if you're playing Berserker or have like a special class related ability, but they all have cooldowns. And these skills also all do more damage than just right clicking and auto attacking, which we'll get back to in a second. But like you'll have big attacks that you can use that you'll want to use at the right time in the right moment and kind of like work them together in a rotation type of thing, which is very similar to like kind of what it seems like Path of Exile wants to do. But it's just not really working out. Now, there are some other issues with like itemization and power leveling. Lost Ark has very, very, very strong control over player power, and pretty much everybody plays the same build per class. And so there's not a lot of build expression or diversity at all, which I think is a big problem for, making that work in an ARPG space. However, you do feel like you are pressing more than one button. You're definitely motivated to use all of your abilities on your bar. Now, the other thing that kind of a big problem was the fact that like most of your skills have a lot of negative stuff going on with the attack speed is all nerfed on them. So basically like most of the skills here have a attack speed penalty. So lightning spear, for example, throws this really cool lightning spear out, except for that is half of the speed of base. And every single skill for the most part, if it has any attack speed multiplier, it is a negative multiplier. So we can see here that like explosive spear is 80%, 80%, 70%, 85, 50%, flat 70, and it just feels really bad. Like having 40% of base attack speed, 55%. I guess maybe in the later game, if you've like really stacked up a lot of attack speed, then this might make sense. But at low level, it really feels like you're swinging a very slow hammer against enemies who are just rushing you down, which is just absolutely wild. And then this also leads to a problem where we see here lightning spear, for example, it has basically half attack speed of normal, but then does 191 of base. Compare this to spear stab, which is your basic skill that comes along with a spear. It is like your auto attack, if you would. This has 182 attack damage, and it has no penalty to the attack speed, which means when I wanted to go and kill the Act 2 boss, my best option was to spear stab all day. And so I took Martial Temple off, put it on spear stab, was doing quite a bit more DPS than pretty much everything else was available to me, and that's all I did. Just spear stab, parried attacks, and the boss seemed to be bugged where parry was very much more like Dark Souls parry, where I had to press the button right before he attacked in order to actually parry, and then I just kept stabbing all day. And that was pretty much my entire gameplay, and it took me a while to get through it. I even had to go and exalt a weapon up to get a pretty good weapon to be able to get through the boss. And realistically, this is not really what I'm personally looking for from an ARPG. It's just very like slow, grindy style thing where you're going to spend a lot of time in the campaign. Give you an idea here, we're at 9 hours and like 33 minutes, but I've spent like 30 minutes trying to make this video. And so about 9 hours through like kind of the start of Act 3. That's about, I don't know. I'd love to, like most campaigns, if they were done after 3 or 4 hours, I'd be very happy. And so this is just way too much time kind of like grinding through the start of the game. And I really prefer in ARPGs kind of the power fantasy of like blowing enemies up and like build creation and build testing and messing with different combinations. PoE2 just really feels like they limit that a lot. And one of the big problems for me is that I don't have any way to buy skill gems from a vendor if I, especially not support gems. So this is kind of like all of the extra gems that I have right now. I can go and show you some of the support gems, but I don't really have support gems for all of the different slots that I have. And I also do not have, I think I've only gotten like 2 of the things that give me more gem slots, One of them I used on a skill that I don't use anymore. I was originally doing Rake, so I'll put that all the way out. So we can see all the supports that I have here. And then I have one more Lesser Jeweler's Orb, and that's pretty much it. And so if I want more support gems or try out one of these 100 new support gems, well, just kind of too bad. I really wish that there was some way for me to go to the merchant and, you know, buy a blank support gem, blank skill gem, and like it doesn't really make sense to me, like from a thematic standpoint, that we're living in this world where these gems do exist and they do drop, that these people don't sell them. Like, why not? It doesn't make any sense. It's just like this ruthless style limitation that I don't really like. And that kind of brings me to my kind of last and final thought here is I'm pretty much disappointed in GGG because it really did feel like with PoE1 that they slowly were just kind of draining the man hours out of the game, and they're putting a lot of focus into this game, and ends up like not really being in the direction that I wanted it to be. And ended up kind of just being like way more towards the hard mode, ruthless style gameplay, which is not something I really like. And especially since they've taken literally every single PoE1 dev off of PoE1 and put them onto PoE2, and have said that they are going to continue to have them off of on PoE2 until they, you know, shake out the bugs from this. Right now, I believe that the reviews on Steam for the game are kind of like at a mixed review. And as we can see here, mixed reviews, not looking very good. And so on the 4th, we're at 600 positive, 200 negative. And then here on the 5th, we're at 400 positive, 1200 negative. And then on the 6th here, we are now at 65 positive and 327 negative. That is probably indicative of the fact that they are going to continue to have the PoE1 devs on the PoE2 project here for who knows how long. And that just means that like they've basically turned this from being like an actual early access game to this is like their full release, full focus game. Like they have completely taken the pedal, like get the foot off the pedal for PoE1, and they have bet it all here on PoE2, and just like kind of letting PoE1 rot. I mean, I think that's been a massive mistake. They've kind of like really kind of taken it the wrong way, and it just kind of seems like they're going to keep going that way. So yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts right now on PoE 0.2. We'll go maybe check out maybe some endgame stuff. I really don't want to grind through the campaign. Huntress has been like super painful, and just kind of like I didn't really enjoy the campaign the first time around, and I really couldn't see myself playing this every single season, maybe even like making multiple characters without like doing some sort of like absolutely crazy leveling gear that like blasts me through the game, which kind of like completely negates the reason of playing the game in the first place of the campaign. Like why make this like huge big chunk of thing that's grinding and slow if the real game is after the campaign anyways? I just don't really understand the direction here. But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts. Hopefully they kind of like see some of the reactions to this and they kind of react in a way that is positive. But you know, maybe this is just the direction they want to take. Be really interesting to kind of see how it goes forward. And yeah, just hoping to see some good stuff. And yeah, looking forward to like Torchlight here in 2 weeks. I'm looking forward to some more blaster style gameplay, and hopefully you come by and check it out. Later.